From PNC News, it's your host, May Habib.
Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates. Currently with us is Senator Kelly Marsh-Taitno, a current Democratic sitting senator and a Democratic hopeful for the 36th Guam legislature as well. Welcome, Senator Marsh-Taitno. So, first of all, I know that you're a huge environmental proponent. I really want to ask you, what are your environmental priorities for the island?
Well, right now I have a couple of bills, I should say really one bill and one resolution that are in place that I'm hoping to push forward in the next session or the session after that. So one is taking our comprehensive development plan, and that covers, well, comprehensively, right? Just about everything under the sun. And I've placed in it sustainable principles. So we're at a point in time, and especially with this pandemic, that we need to start updating our comprehensive development plan. And the world has been moving along in this direction. So we need to formally put those sustainable principles in there and make sure that across the board we are working towards them. And when I say these sustainable principles, they also have elements that deal with social issues, which we have in high rates. And so it deals with homelessness, transportation, public transportation. It also addresses the fact that we live on an indigenous homeland. So we infused a lot of really important concepts in there. So that's one of them. The other is a resolution. We just had a hearing for it the other night. And this resolution is just asking that we get the same protections for our community and our community's resources that are being given to Hawaii and California right now. And that is protecting our whales and our dolphins. So with the active sonar that's going on right now, we are seeing an increase in the number of dead whales that are washing up on our shores. And it is strongly thought to be by scientists around the world, but our local scientists, that there is a strong correlation to this, about 90-95% correlation. Now, this affects us in a variety of ways. Tourism, when it comes back, but even us locals, we go out into the waters as well. Dolphin watching is a large part of what we offer. About 20 to 25%, and sometimes even more of the tourists that come here go out on those dolphin watching tours. The other part that I have talked about is this is something that we can expand upon perhaps. I talked to the leading scientist here who is the point of contact for kind of all things whales in the Marianas. And he says that we can really look at developing a whale watching industry. It needs to be done responsibly. Oh, sorry.
No. I can see you're passionate, and it's wonderful. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the economy, but we're kind of running short on time. But you did mention a few of the things there in your conversation as well, in your passion for the environment. Just really quickly before we wrap up, if you can give me an elevator pitch of why people should be voting for you.
Well, as you just saw, I'm here to put together rebuilding and re-envisioning our economy, but in ways that are sustainable. We need to be less dependent on outside forces. We need to be building up resiliency on the island, in the archipelago, and in our region. And there are ways to do this. And so I want to rebuild and re-envision our economy that way. The other is I've been really strong in government oversight for accountability and for transparency. I had the only subpoena this term for which hasn't even been done in many years. But when it came down to it, we had to push that envelope and make sure that the public funds were accounted for. Okay. And then lastly, for the community, we have so many community needs. We need to strengthen our support for them and uplift them.
Okay, Senator, thank you so much. If you want to find out more, of course, you can find out more about Senator Kelly Marsh-Taitno, who's running for the 36th Guam legislature. Coming up is a little bit of a lighter conversation with Mama Shar.
From Power 98, it's your host, Mama Shar.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates Double Shot. My name is Mama Shar, and we're going to take things a little bit lighter. And of course, I have senatorial candidate Miss Kelly Marsh-Taitno. How are you doing today?
Afide, doing pretty well since it's Maasi. And how are you doing?
I am feeling great. The weather isn't my friend because I can't drive in the rain, so it's kind of scary. Well,
I was saying, I was saying how I follow you on TikTok though, and I enjoy you very much.
Thank you. TikTok got me obsessed. Oh my goodness. Okay, so first and foremost, I actually want to know what are some of your favorite foods, Guam foods actually?
Oh my goodness, I could talk for nearly forever on empanadas. So, I have dreamt of having a podcast where I start off on Guam. I go from village to village, mom and pop store, and caterer to caterer, family to family, however it goes. And I talk about the empanadas because we all know that they're different. Then we can move on up to the Northern Mariana Islands and then the world, because I've had empanadas in the Philippines, in Texas, in California, and they each have their own thing. So I swear I want to have a podcast where I just explore the world and their empanadas.
Oh, that sounds
I enjoy other foods as well, but yeah.
That sounds so wonderful. I actually want an empanada right now. And speaking of food, what are some of your favorite foods you, I guess, find comfort in that you also like enjoying to cook?
Well, in our household, my husband does all the cooking. I actually haven't cooked anything other than Ichiban for quite a number of years. But the one thing that I do is I love pickled everything. And so I do pickle my own stuff.
That sounds good.
Yeah, pickled papaya, but my latest thing has been pickled pickles. So I guess sometimes the more sour, the better.
Yes, for sure. And speaking of sour, I mean, granted, with the whole pandemic, do you feel like the holidays will be changing this year a little bit? How do you feel about that?
That's a really good question. And I hadn't quite looked ahead that far. We're so in many ways like in the moment, right? How do we survive today? How do we survive this week? What can I do better or further? Or, I've just been so caught up, but I really, I do think that it's going to be different this time around. And I'm actually a Christmas Eve baby. And I think already birthdays are a little different. We're still finding out ways to celebrate them. I drive by every now and then a family's house where you can see the cars lined up and the balloons, and they've written things on their cars. So I think we'll find ways to comfort each other and lift each other up. But I do think it's going to be different.
Awesome. Now, I know you mentioned living the moment and basically trying to survive every day, right? Speaking of survive, if you were stuck on an island, what would be the first thing you would do as the only one on the island?
Well, okay, that's an interesting twist to it. I used to ask students when I taught geography, and I tried to make them think about things. I was like, okay, if you were on a deserted island, so what was it again? What would I do?
Yeah, what would be the first thing you would have to, I think what would be the first thing you would think of knowing that you are the only one on the island, and this is talking about survival-wise?
Yeah, so maybe a lot of people would do a lot of crazy things, but when I was growing up, I ran around the jungles, and you know what I did? I spent a lot of time looking for food, for guava, for manyaha, and things like that. So I probably would look for food first, actually.
Nice. I would actually look for food every day, and possibly, I don't know, maybe grow my own. I have a question. Do you have any fur babies? Do you have pets that you have?
Yes, all my 3 dogs are rescue dogs.
Oh, that's so
one
precious.
found me. You know how that goes, right?
Yeah.
And I have 2 cats outside who also they adopted us. They just keep on hanging out there. So yes, we have 3 dogs. We have a small, a medium, and a large.
Ooh.
Somehow. And we have a female. I think the female cat attracted the male cat, and they've both adopted us. So yeah.
Well, sometimes the fur babies, they find their own homes, even if I don't know you, but here you are.
Yes, and I'm not leaving.
And speaking of going back to adopting, how do you feel that the adoption rate, I guess, for animals on island, is it something that you feel like can be better versus purchasing, if that makes any sense?
Well, I know it is a business here, so I'm here to support the businesses. Some of the rescue dogs, or at least one of them, I did get through one of the businesses. So they did it as a little bit of outreach, and I'm not sure if any went to them as a business or if it was, purely trying to help the animal population. So I understand those who want to earn a living from raising animals or through selling them. So I don't have issue with that. But I have heard statistics rather recently when I was at a public hearing to try to help our stray dog population and deal with it. And they were saying we may have as many as 60,000 dogs on the island. Wow. And it's growing exponentially. And so I think we definitely need to figure out ways that we're making sure that we're able to take care of them in one way or another, so that they're not out there. We've heard some of those stories about how they might start to rove in packs, and then maybe kids are playing in their own yard and getting attacked. So yeah, we need to continue to work on this, allowing people to have their pets, allowing people to make money off of it, if that's been how they've been raising their revenues, but also how to make it safe for everybody and safe for the animal and humane for the animal as well.
All right, here we go. Now we will go into our question with the community. This is coming from Maria.
Okay, very good. I like the name Maria, so
all right,
works so far.
Ms. Kelly, the question is, illegal dumping is a huge problem. What are things you and your team will be doing to minimize this issue and to continue to stop illegal dumping?
Well, it's such a concern. I think about it regularly, actually, for a couple of reasons. One, I've written a bill that became a law, and it empowered the Island Beautification Task Force to tackle this. In the way that I look at it, it's behavioral. And I grew up here. I've been here since the 60s. I've seen that change in our island. And there are several reasons why that perhaps has happened. And so I feel it needs a bigger permanent home. Right now, it might be one agency or another agency that tackles it with grant money, or they have a certain theme that they're working on for the year. But I think it needs to be something more permanent. And that's why I wrote that law. So what they're doing is they just started meeting. We don't see the effects of it yet. It's going to take, it's been around for decades, unfortunately, and it's going to take perhaps years to really get it under control. But they need to have PSAs. They need to have awareness programs. They need to have education in our schools. And part of the reason I put it with the Island Beautification Task Force is it's made up of many agencies. And I added a few more in there into the mix. The mayors are there, GVB is there, Department of Parks and Recreation, Guam Solid Waste Authority, I believe, is there. And they need to work together, and they need to come up with several plans. This needs a lot of approaches and a lot of plans. We need to develop a universal trash pickup. So that's something else I'm also working on, how to get more of us, if it's only half of our households that are part of that part of that trash pickup, then we need to get more of us on it. But also, I want to look at programs like having these areas where we can bring them to at either regional centers or at our mayors, not just the side of the road that's not working for us.
Right.
We need to have more of these places where we can place the items responsibly that isn't too difficult and that can be picked up regularly. So yeah, I care about it a lot, and I want to see these programs thrive.
Thank you so much, Senator Kelly Marsh Tyson. No, you have been quite a blessing on our screens this morning, or this evening, rather. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was our amazing senator. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with Coffee with the Candidates Double Shot. My name is Mama Shar. I'll see you guys later.
Hafaday, I'm May Habib with PNC News. Welcome to Coffee with the Candidates. This is a little bit of a different edition. I'm going to be asking some questions, the hard news stuff, and then, of course, we'll get to know the candidates on a lighter side with Mama Shar, who's coming right up. First, we want to get to know Ken Leon Guerrero, who is a Republican candidate for the 36th Guam legislature coming up. Ken, talk to me. You've been really critical about the governor's response to COVID-19 and how she sort of handled it, particularly on the business side. Talk to me about what you would have done differently and what you wanted to see.
Well, what I would have done differently is I would have strengthened the screening process at the very beginning. I mean, we have 160,000 people. Doing 100 to 150 tests a day was not sufficient. Now, I know it was a supply issue, but still more could have been done. The second thing I would have done that was differently is I would have strengthened up the quarantine screening at the airport and at the ports, because there's only two ways people get on this island. They either come in on a plane or they come in on a ship. So by strengthening the screenings at those two ports of entry, then we could have done a better job. But we had all these exemptions and people were able to walk right through the quarantine. So that was a rough start. But the one thing I wouldn't have done is I wouldn't have killed all of our businesses. It was bad enough that the tourism industry shut down, but by killing all the small businesses and forcing people to suffer unnecessarily, we're making a bad problem worse. When we have people sitting in lines for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, people going to the food stations at 2 o'clock in the morning, hoping that they're going to get food before they run out. These are not good things for our people. And now we're seeing hundreds of small businesses being put out of business by one lockdown after another that has no logical thought behind it. And then go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, I mean, you're talking, of course, the economy is such a big part of the COVID-19 conversation, right? It's not just health. We know that the economy is front and center. So I guess I want to ask you what kind of ideas you have to either re-stimulate our economy, get small businesses back in order. What are you looking to do if you are voted as senator coming up?
Well, if I'm voted as senator coming up, the first thing I'm going to do is work with the other senators and force the governor to show us where she spent hundreds of millions of dollars. She still, to this day, has not accounted to the legislature on what she has done with that money. And as we saw in the early days of the shutdown, a lot of that money was used in no-bid sweetheart deal contracts that went to politically well-connected insiders instead of going to supporting the people that the money was meant to support. The second thing we would do is carefully examine the powers the governor has under this emergency situation. There are things she's doing well, but there are a lot of things she's not doing well. And basically bayoneting the economy while it's down is one of them, because now not only are people living in fear of the virus, they're living in fear of being evicted, they're living in fear of having cars repossessed, they're living in fear of running out of money, food. You know, these are serious issues. And then as businesses shut down forever, we're losing our tax base. And the legislature and the governor just passed the second largest budget in the history of Guam with no financial integrity, as far as I'm concerned. So that would be something else that would need to be addressed by the 36th legislature right away, reevaluating the budget for FY21.
And I wish I had more time to get more detailed with you, but I do want to give you the opportunity to sort of give us an elevator pitch of why people should be voting for you, Ken.
Well, my platform has been put together after 12 years of working as a community advocate. The first thing we got to do is reform the election process. And a key part of that is going to a part-time legislature, because for 6 years, I've been trying to encourage highly qualified people to run for the legislature, but they can't because the full-time commitment takes them away from careers and businesses. The second part of my platform is stabilizing government in Guam.
Okay.
We're doing everything that Puerto Rico did, and look where Puerto Rico ended up even before the hurricane and the earthquake.
Okay, Ken, I
Federal
think I was trying to get you to elevator pitch me because I want you to squeeze in as much as you can in that little bit, but I think people have gotten a lot, and they can, of course, go online to find out more about why they would be voting for you. Stay tuned. A little bit of a lighter conversation with Ken Leon Guerrero is coming up with Mama Shar.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates Double Shot. Bam! My name is Mama Shar, and of course, we have the awesome, the lovely Mr. Ken Leon Guerrero. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great.
Awesome. Okay, so here's some burning questions that the people, meaning my mind, want to know on Election Day. You win. What are you having for dinner?
Steak.
Yes! Speaking of, the next most important question. How does one like their steak?
Medium rare.
Sir, you are winning my vote here. I love it. Now, are you a fan of movies by any chance?
Yes, I am.
Cool. Okay. Now, if you were to be in a movie, any kind of movie, whether it's going to be a new one or an old one, what movie would you be and why?
An old one, it would be broadcast news.
I don't know if I ever watched that.
Well, it's an 80s movie, and
Ah.
I'm old enough to have been there. But this was a behind-the-scenes look at broadcast journalism back in the 80s.
Okay.
And I was very involved in media back then. I liked the behind-the-scene adrenaline rush, especially on a live broadcast. I did my first live stream Saturday, and right in the middle of my live stream, my cat jumped onto my desk, jumped onto my chest, climbed up onto my shoulder, and wrapped itself around the back of my head while I was live.
That's so sweet. I'm pretty sure your cat's like, hey, let me be a star too, Dad. Come on.
Her name is Terminator, so I'll let you
Wow.
take it from there.
Terminator, such epicness. And speaking of epicness, do you prefer Apple or Android?
I'm mixed right there because I was an Android forever and ever, and then for Father's Day 2 years ago, my son gifted me with an Apple. So I have an Apple phone and a PC system. So the two don't speak very well. So I'm perpetually fighting one system or the other.
Ah, I know how that feels. Fighting happens in my family. Well, now it's time for actually the most important question. This is from one of our viewers. Her name is Marisa. Senator, so the question is, our stray problem on Guam continues to be an issue. What would you do about it if you were elected?
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that GAIN got all the funding that they were due, because GAIN helps keep our village safe. And I would fully staff the animal control officers and ramp up licensing and sterilization programs so that, we can have the funding to run the clinics to keep the litter counts down. I mean, when you can't walk in a village without a golf club or a baseball bat, we have a serious problem. And now, the children are in danger when they go to the bus stops, because sometimes they're carrying their lunches, or, well, when they were going to school, you'd see dogs hanging out at the bus stops waiting for the kids. That's not safe. So that would be one of my ways. I would make sure that GAIN had the funding to run sterilization clinics so that we could get as many of those family pets spayed as possible, and enhance the animal control efforts to collect the stray population, adopt out those adoptable, and unfortunately deal with the ones that aren't adoptable.
Got it. Thank you so much, Mr. Ken. Now, I have a question about your amazing cat that you have, Terminator. How did you, why Terminator?
Well, she was abandoned by her original owner, who probably threw her out of a car, because when she came up to our house, the right side of her face was down to, it was a road rash, no hair, no fur, all torn up. And her right eye pupil was blown and the eyeball was all red. So she looked like Terminator, the poster, the Terminator, where it's got half the face torn off and the eye was all red. So that's why we named her Terminator. She recovered. She had a litter. She's spayed now. All of our animals are rescues. We have 2 cats and 3 dogs, all rescues. So that's a plug for game.
So with adoption, because I know how that feels, I was able to adopt my amazing Chihuahua. She's kind of a menace, but we love her. How did you come about choosing or adopting your fur babies, if you will?
Well, Terminator, as I told you, she adopted us. Right underneath my feet here is Chiba, and a friend of ours. It was her dog, and she moved back to Spain. But before she could bring her dog over, the rules had changed and the cost went up astronomically. So we adopted him because we've been watching him ever since she left until we could send him on. So we adopted him, and Danzig over here, he adopted us in the dark of night in 2010. We had a thunderstorm and we heard some noise out in the garage. We went out there and there was a 6-month-old puppy. And so we adopted him. And when we ran his microchip, we found out his real name was Maverick, but the owners, they already had moved on. And the fact that he found a family and seemed happy, they allowed us to keep him. And he's been with us now for 10 years. And then Chica, our Chihuahua mix, Chihuahua Jack Russell mix, who's right over there. We got her at Feathers and Fins. She was a game animal that was being adopted out of Feathers and Fins. And so we adopted her after one of our other rescues passed away.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ken. Honestly, now everyone knows that not only are you an amazing human being who are supporting our fur babies, but I love your movement, and I cannot wait to see you on our Senate ballot. Thank you so much for joining us once again here for Coffee with the Candidates with Mr. Ken Leongro. My name is Mama Shar. See you later.
Thank you.